News 5 at 5 is sponsored by Bedford Nissan, a vibrant member of the community for 50 years, located on the Bedford Auto Mile.
"2020 began with the promise and opportunity that comes with the new year.
And then 3 confirmed cases.
Stocks took a free fall. All 3 fears of the coronavirus in Cuyahoga County.
Everything changed.
All non-essential businesses are closed.
It's bad.
Lost my job last month.
Unrest in Minneapolis over the death of George Floyd, now spilling into Cleveland.
But amid the fear, the frustration, and the loss, we found strength, hope, and a way to keep going.
I think they're amazing.
And in many ways, we made this year of change
We can all survive this thing
a year of growth, too.
together. We can be a better world.
We say good evening, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of News 5 at 5. I'm Rob Powers.
And I'm Courtney Guzman. As we look ahead in hopes of 2021, the next hour we're looking back at how 2020 became the year everything changed.
Yeah, COVID-19 forced us to reimagine the things we took for granted, like going out to eat, going to school, and how we define family time. Perhaps the biggest change is also the most difficult. This holiday season, thousands of people had empty seats at their tables. The Ohio Department of Health has now recorded 8,962 COVID-19 deaths since the pandemic began. Health officials confirmed Ohio's first cases of COVID-19 March 9th, but they suggest dozens of people were likely infected long before that. State numbers show there were 280 probable cases before March 9th, dating as far back as January 2nd. And the state recorded one probable death from coronavirus March 1st, 18 days before the first confirmed death was even reported.
And Victor Young was one of those early cases in Northeast Ohio, and the cancer survivor also became a COVID-19 survivor. News 5's Katie Houston shows us how he beat the odds and overcame 2020's biggest foe.
With every breath, Victor Young is filled with gratitude. For every breath is a reminder of life. It wasn't too long ago life sounded like this. A ventilator did the breathing for Vic. COVID-19 nearly killed the 64-year-old.
I shouldn't be here. I mean, I was that sick.
In early March, Vic's wife Marguerite was among the first confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Ohio. Despite their best efforts to quarantine, Vic became sick too. While Marguerite recovered at home, Vic's symptoms were more severe. One night, he was rushed away in an ambulance, unable to breathe or say goodbye to his wife of 21 years.
I didn't see him for 14 more days. It was dark. It was darkness. That's what I tell everybody, the darkest time.
It had to be.
Yeah.
It had to be.
Vic was put into a medically induced coma at Cleveland Clinic Marymount Hospital and placed on a ventilator to keep him alive.
You're mentally aware that you're trapped, and you feel like you're trapped inside of you.
He says he felt no pain, but remembers it feeling like a horror movie.
My brain was working full blown, but nothing else was.
But he could hear and says the voices of his doctors, nurses, and specialists constantly talking to him were a saving grace.
Even though I'm totally not responsive, they would talk. I can't tell you how much that mattered. It sort of broke up isolation.
He says he never felt alone, despite being unable to have family by his side due to COVID-19 restrictions.
The level of deep empathy was palpable and was just, it was overwhelming. I don't know how you say thank you for caring so deeply, because they just did.
Vic was on a ventilator for 12 days. He lost 25 pounds and has worked tirelessly to regain his strength and life.
I am the ultimate incrementalist. So I actually believe that there's nothing I can't do if I do it slowly and consistently.
Dr. Debasis Sahu is Vic's pulmonologist. He says Vic never lost hope that he would heal and credits a change in diet, exercise, and never missing a day of physical or pulmonary rehab.
Any patient that you see recover to the extent like Vic has recovered makes you feel proud of what you are doing, gives you the energy to sustain working harder to take care of these patients.
Vic was one of Cleveland Clinic's first coronavirus patients to make it off a ventilator alive. Dr. Sahu says when the pandemic started, the learning learning curve was huge, and Vic was among the early coronavirus patients who have helped create care plans to improve survival outcomes today.
We've learned a lot on managing with medications, managing how to use the ventilator, right? And our experience has taught us and helped us heal these patients better.
A near-death experience puts things into perspective.
My worldview is the same, but my sense of urgency has been probably ratcheted up even another notch. The time that I have been given, I need to make sure is used to sort of help make this place better or leave it better when I do finally leave.
Faith was this couple's cornerstone before the pandemic, and they say surviving the unthinkable has only made their foundation unshakable.
I'm just thankful for him. My life was better the moment I met him. So I'm just so thankful that it was God's will for him to still be here.
In Cleveland, Katie Houston, News 5.
Just amazing. And sometimes hope comes packaged in a cardboard box. At least that was the case when Pfizer's first shipments of COVID-19 vaccine rolled up here in Ohio. And then once again on December 21st when Moderna's first doses came to the state. And so far, 119,000 people in Ohio have gotten at least one dose of that vaccine. Now, we're still in phase 1, and that means the doses are reserved for frontline workers and people who live in long-term care facilities.
So it makes sense that we protect them because it keeps them working and on the job.
I think it's a fitting end to 2020,
Ohio's second phase of vaccinations expected to begin mid-January. School employees, people over the age of 65, and Ohioans with severe medical disorders will be next on that list. Governor Mike DeWine calling the arrival of the vaccines the beginning of the end of this pandemic. Well, for 8 minutes and For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the world watched this summer as George Floyd pleaded for his life as a police officer kneeled on his neck. Now, in the stillness of the pandemic-induced isolation, his death and the deaths of other Black Americans like Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor brought something that had been simmering in America for centuries to a boiling point.
News 5's Frank Wiley spoke with 3 recent graduates about the changes they're seeing and still hope to see as a result of this social justice shift.
2020 took so much away.
I would have loved to have been able to walk across the stage and celebrate with my family.
Prom too, I still got my suit just sitting in there. Really nice suit.
I tried out for the cheerleading team this year, made it, but we didn't have a season.
And for these graduates who saw their futures reimagined on top of the racial turmoil playing out in the headlines.
I just feel like we live in a society where we still aren't accepted.
It was a breaking point.
It's tough. It's tough.
I was very devastated.
But the streets weren't just filled with Black Americans who had enough.
What's going on?
That's good, but that can only get you so far.
There were white allies.
We're learning from each other.
Some just waking up to the reality that racism is alive and well in 2020.
It just hurts me. It really hurts me. And to be a Black woman personally, like some days I go out and I'm just nervous to go out because I don't know what could happen. Like I could be the next Breonna Taylor.
An Associated Press NORC poll found 39% of white adults said police violence is a very serious problem. That's up from 19% back in 2015. And the sale of anti-racism books like White Fragility soared. The head of the Cleveland NAACP says for white America, the work is just beginning.
I think white America has to understand that there are many people in this country, especially white people, that ultimately don't even understand the gravity of what racism does to families, to households, to communities.
And part of that work is building trust with Black communities who saw higher rates of COVID-19 infections and deaths than their white counterparts this year.
African Americans have more of the circumstances that make it harder to survive this pandemic. Deep-rooted poverty, pre-existing medical conditions, lack of access to health care, less stable employment,
and are less likely to trust a vaccine.
It's hard to explain. My parents wouldn't take a vaccine, so I wouldn't take one.
One doctor says there's reason for communities of color to believe in the process.
For those two companies that I mentioned, Pfizer and Moderna, the inclusion of people of color is upwards of above 30%, I believe, in each of those.
More specifically, Black representation in the trials of the Pfizer vaccine was around 10%. And after the 40-year trauma of the Tuskegee experiment, she stressed.
When the vaccine becomes approved under emergency use authorization or traditional approval, it is no longer experimental.
After a year spent battling racism, disease, and distrust, November brought change.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Historic voter turnout this fall brought our country its first Black woman and South Asian American vice president. And our future nurses, audio engineers, and business owners found reason to hope.
2020 has taught me to keep up or push through the dark times.
I'm always hopeful. I don't ever lose hope.
I don't think you have a choice but to be hopeful.
Since despite all the bad, 2020 did bring momentum to the movement for a country where all men and women are truly created equal.
The thing about America that has made me smile is the resiliency of people coming together.
Frank Wiley.
We cannot take our foot off the gas.
News 5.
So beyond the health and economic tolls of the pandemic, there's another impact that may not be as visible, but it's just as pervasive.
Yeah, CDC numbers show both children and adults struggled with mental health this year. Researchers found emergency department visits related to mental health went up 24% for kids between 5 and 11 and 31% for kids 12 to 17 between April and October of this year. That's compared to the same time period last year.
And a CDC survey from June found 40% of U.S. adults reported struggling with mental health or substance abuse. The agency said the increase was a direct result of actions taken to stop the spread of the virus. Things like social distancing and stay-at-home orders isolated people everywhere. Young adults, minorities, and essential workers were more likely to report increased substance use and mental health problems.
One group of essential workers are having to cope with added stress as the holiday virus surge taxes our country's healthcare system. Caregivers, they are exhausted. In the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of attention on the efforts to protect their physical health. News 5's Mike Brookbank found out their mental health is now top of mind.
In a year when it's been hard to keep track of time, there has been one constant for caregivers: heartache.
It's been awful to see them lose their lives and talk to their families and have their families not see them when they die.
Those rising to the challenge to treat patients with coronavirus.
It's hard for it to even escape your mind when this is just all we deal with day in and day out. It really is taking over our lives.
Finding themselves not only in the crosshairs of a devastating disease.
It's emotionally tasking for everyone involved.
But a mental health bullseye.
You take it home. You don't want to, but you do.
For nurses working on Metro Hospital's COVID floor, the tables have turned.
It's really heartbreaking having to watch someone die alone.
I've had to hold an iPad in front of them so their families can see them one less time.
Caregivers finding themselves in need of care.
We've gone through a lot watching these people be very critically ill and die.
While they lean on each other.
That's how I'm getting through it.
We're living this, so it's nice to have a coworker to talk to. It's a lot, especially when you lose a patient.
Frontline workers are seeking help.
Many of them are taught to be stoic in the face of adversity.
Their bosses at Metro Health developing new programs to help.
We cry, we bleed, we hurt just like anybody else. Taking that first step to say, hey, I need help, it's not a natural thing to do.
Trauma thrives in isolation, resilience thrives in connection.
Katie Kurtz provides COVID as trauma training for frontline workers. She tells me demand for her safe space is increasing.
We need to give ourselves permission to be human and to feel through this.
In addition to offering resiliency techniques,
it's okay to ask for help, for support.
Metro Health gives its staff time to divert their attention away from the stress of the workday.
We have book clubs that are virtual. We even have a Spanish club for those who want to learn Spanish.
Doctors like Ted Warren, who work in the intensive care unit,
there's definitely significantly more stress. The challenges come with the frequency with which these patients come in.
Get extra time off after their shifts,
which has made a big difference.
Until this pandemic comes to a close,
as this drags on, this becomes much more difficult and becomes more of a concern.
The nurses at Metro tell me they're going to keep looking out for each other.
You know when someone's at their tipping point, when someone needs a break.
And take advantage of those small moments, like being able to walk outside for an interview with News 5.
The first thing I did was take my mask off and just take a breath of fresh air. It feels nice.
Great. Reporting in Cleveland, Mike Brookbank, News 5.
Okay, we want to remind you that if you need it, help is out there. There are a few resources on your screen right now for anybody struggling. You can reach the National Suicide Hotline by calling 800-273-8255. Somebody will pick up 24 hours a day. And before we go to break, some of you now share some of the bright spots that emerged from all this darkness.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the thought of another day. Emily and I had weekly phone conversations and made time every single week to check in. And it strengthened our friendship.
Every day for me is a bright spot. It's just a blessing to be alive.
I learned to appreciate simple things in life that I took as granted.
I'm leaving behind the expectations that things might go back to normal. I'm letting go of that and just trying to be in whatever it is.
As Ohio tries to claw its way out of pandemic recession, we know some industries will have to claw harder and longer than others. During the height of the lockdowns nationwide, the unemployment rate in the hospitality industry nearly hit a staggering 40% in April. And while it has drastically declined to 15% through November, it's still roughly 3 times higher than Ohio's current unemployment rate.
Restaurant owners haven't fared much better. From Taste Buds to Lola, from Louie's to Retro Dog, so many iconic restaurants in our area have closed this year. Now you can find a tribute to them on news5cleveland.com and our digital original, A Eulogy for Restaurants Failed by the Pandemic. But it's not all doom and gloom. In this We're Open story, Jordan Vandenberg shows us how some restaurants in Northeast Ohio are keeping high hopes through adaptation and pure perseverance.
A restaurant is never just a business. It's a vision and a hope.
It's all execution.
And for Red Lantern in West Park,
got my great-grandmother's red sauce right here.
When one kitchen closes,
so got the ricotta nudie right here.
Another one,
super rich,
opens.
I miss seeing people's faces in the dining room, enjoying the food.
The dining room may be empty, but that doesn't mean the kitchen has to be too.
This might be the way of the future.
In late October, Erica Carlberg launched Planted, Cleveland's newest plant-based restaurant.
Instead of spending all this money on investing in a brick and mortar place, let's just try the virtual delivery option.
Using Red Lantern as a ghost kitchen.
This is a house-made hummus.
It was an instant hit. And soon, it had company.
We've got Red Lantern over here, and we've got Planted over there.
After seeing Planted's initial success,
loved the idea right off the rip.
Red Lantern owner Corey Rowland improvised, relighting Red Lantern for online orders.
Once we kind of executed it, it seemed so simple. I don't know why it hasn't been done earlier.
It's almost 3 generations of people coming now.
Gus's Family Restaurant in Old Brooklyn is one of the longest-running staples in Cleveland's largest neighborhood. But like any other restaurant owner, the daily grind had nearly become too much for owner Nico Semertsidis.
I kind of didn't want to do too much in the restaurant. I was kind of beaten up a little bit.
During the shutdown, Samartzidis didn't sulk. Instead, he was reinvigorated. He renovated the interior, recrafted his menu, and turned notepads into iPads.
I was here every day, but mentally I wasn't here. For the time away, when I was able to come back to it, I just started remembering, things that inspired me when I was younger.
We're taking it day by day.
Fran Lawson and Rena Katina have risen from the ashes before.
I'm proud of us.
A fire in 2017 burned the family business Mama Katina's in Euclid to the ground. But then and now, they're determined because their parents would be too.
That's why we got the oomph to still keep on going. Fire in 2017 and now this. We had just finished paying off the last refrigerator right before COVID hit.
Restaurants like Mama Katina's, Gus's, Planted, and Red Lantern make up Ohio's restaurant industry. And that industry and the businesses that support it account for about a fifth of the state's total workforce. That industry is down, but by no means are they defeated.
When we have an operator like Michael Simon who decides to throw in the towel with arguably the most celebrated restaurant in the state of Ohio, with Lola's, that tells you something.
One was insistent.
I think we're stronger because of it. Stronger, yes.
Another was reinvigorated.
It brought back a love that I had.
And the other innovated.
We're hoping to be here as a staple in the neighborhood.
No matter the menu, hope
We try and stay as positive as we can.
will always be a main course.
I always say, just do it. Let's just do it.
A restaurant is never just a business. It's the realization of a vision, and it's the hope
My only hope for this upcoming year
that they will see you again soon.
is to have everybody healthy, happy.
Jordan Vandenberg, News 5.
Now, we know it wasn't just restaurants that had a tough year, but while some industries floundered, others thrived.
Homa Bash and photojournalist Gary Abrahamson revisited some businesses we've highlighted over the year to show us how they're doing as we enter 2021.
The work at Arby Sigma in Lake County rarely slows down.
24 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Churning out 17 million N95 and surgical masks a month. More than 40 million shipped out so far in 2020. President Justin Bloyd says he credits their success to his team and their work ethic.
Half of the team that's here now wasn't here before, and they've worked tirelessly every day.
The Menor manufacturer has seen its business boom during the pandemic. Earlier this year, we showed you how they pivoted from supply chain management to making their own PPE.
And I would encourage people to look really hard at what's being made domestically. We're doing so well because our reliance is purely on domestically made raw materials.
For them, 2021 won't just be focused on growing manufacturing. They're also adding in tech innovation, working on an iPhone and Android app that'll be like the Uber for vaccines. They've been working with Ohio counties and health departments to launch it in the coming weeks. Over at Paris Healthcare Linen in Portage County, busy doesn't even begin to cover it. They do the laundry for more than 50 hospitals in Ohio. And when we introduced you to them in October, they were struggling to fill open positions.
I would love to tell people who are at home sitting on the couch that the economy needs you. Everyone needs to get back to work.
General Manager Drew Canavan says they're still down about 6% of their workforce. And he knows they're not alone.
Everywhere I go, every business I pass has now hiring signs up. Every company like ours or every factory and manufacturing facility in our area, they are all hiring right now. They're all desperately looking for employees.
Same story over at Step 2. You know, the ones who make and sell all those kids' toys that have been flying off the shelves this year. Back in August, we told you they put the call out for more workers. And now
we still need help. Like I said, our demand is still high.
Looking to fill about 100 open positions in Streetsboro and Perrysville right now. First, second, or third shift, 8 or 12-hour shifts, weekends only, whatever flexibility you want.
The more people we can bring in, the more, again, we can fulfill orders, the more we can make parents and children happy.
And these companies are not alone. A recent report from Team Neo found the number of jobs in Northeast Ohio during the pandemic didn't actually decline all that much compared to last year. They say what happened is some sectors struggled while others grew. Team Neo found the healthcare, manufacturing, and information technology industries offered the most new opportunities. Openings also grew in the trucking industry. And according to Ohio Means Jobs, the state's one-stop career development hub, there are at least 164,000 open positions in the state right now.
It's a story of optimism. Ohioans are optimistic that better days are ahead.
Better days and a better economy. Here's to a new year with new hope. Homa Bash, News 5.
And you know, all that optimism does not stop there.
No, Ohio is breaking records for new business filings, even in the face of this pandemic. November's new filings were up 47% from the year before, and there's been a total of 157,000 in total for the year so far. Secretary of State Frank LaRose says this proves Ohioans are getting creative and getting busy.
Now, I think it's up to us as Ohioans to make sure that we're supporting these great small businesses. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are folks that are going out there and trying to start something new.
And with that said, though, we know not all new businesses will be profitable or successful. Still, experts say it's a promising sign. So we're not just fighting a virus right now. Youth football coaches say the lost season has them fighting for the souls and the futures of some kids. The game gets them on the field and off the streets.
The most recent data from Cleveland police shows gun-related homicides are up 49% from this time 1 year ago. Photojournalist Andy Sugden shows us when the pandemic left football fields empty, players lost much more than just the game.
Community Football League is a staple in the community.
Go to the right, go to the right.
This is a football town, this is a football area, and it all starts at the youth.
Let's go, Mom!
This time, last year, the stands is full.
Stay on him, Sean!
Parks will be full, practice sites will be full.
Our fields are packed.
Of kids playing,
Phil,
competing, getting ready for the weekends to play.
When he say sit, fire across in your rip motion.
It's a team sport, so they learn how to share.
Run up in there, man.
They learn how to care.
Football is where his heart is at. Yeah. He misses it.
I miss it. I miss it.
I do. I miss it a lot.
Everything was just perfect. There's a lot more to it than just football. A way a lot more.
This story is ever-changing. The coronavirus and its fears affecting all parts of life.
From events to the markets.
Devastating.
The governor recommended people avoid mass gatherings.
That's word I can think of to describe it.
Breaking news just in tonight.
No basketball tournament for 2020.
And the kids, like I said, just being at home.
Concerns about the spreading virus.
The virus, the coronavirus, COVID-19.
And all they're hearing is COVID, 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 COVID.
Right now,
you know, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that.
5 confirmed cases here in Ohio.
Like a hurricane just hit us. You know, a bomb went off, boom. Next thing you know, we're just looking up in the sky. We're looking up at empty stands. We're looking at fields and parks that's, you know, that's unused.
It don't sound right. It don't feel right.
I'm not seeing anything at the fields right now because of the pandemic.
I don't like it. I don't know who doesn't like playing football if football is your life.
It brought him down a lot. Because it wasn't just him, and here's my other son too. They love it.
It's almost like a sense of hopelessness. You know, it's almost walking into a dark room. The demographic we serve, which, you know, a large population is from the inner city, that face a lot of challenges. We're at a battle against the streets right now with our kids not playing.
Right now, I pray for them every day, every night, because I don't know where they are and what they're doing. We used to know.
And now they're just out here in the streets and fighting each other and killing. There's a lot of gun violence.
There's a lot of gang activity in Cleveland, some negative things that's going on around the neighborhoods.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, your local, you know, gangbanger is an influencer, because they can go out there and they can recruit just like a football coach can recruit.
All right, guys, rally up. Let's go.
And this right here is what they need.
Everybody stay on y'all blocks. Y'all hear me?
Football is really teaching these kids to be together and be a family.
The coach is the father figure in his life. So we miss that.
Be aggressive. Fire off on the snap.
They're not just football coaches. They're not just cheerleading coaches. They are counselors. They are father figures, mother figures, big brothers, big sisters.
Go, circle up, circle around. Let's go, circle.
The emotional side is probably the biggest thing that's lost because those kids, they need that guidance.
All right, last one.
We really need to get back on the field.
Let's go, run it out.
We found ways to make it very special for our family.
The biggest challenge is not being able to go home. I'm actually from China, so starting from last winter, there have been travel bans all around. And I don't really know when's the next time I'll get to see my parents in person.
I learned to appreciate people that I hold dear and important to me, friendships and community.
This year, I really learned to appreciate the family and friends that I do have, because I think when you don't get to see them as much, you definitely miss that.
When the pandemic hit, all the things we used to do came to a grinding halt, and we suddenly found we were spending a lot more time at home.
I know that's right. And for some families, this slowdown may have been just what they needed. News 5's Anita Harris shows us how the pandemic tested and strengthened our family connections.
There are two different families, same issue: managing the pandemic. Tavoris Robinson, who has 2 kids, and Miriam Connor, a mother of 3, shared with me what life has been like for them this year.
Well, before the pandemic, my family, we were outgoing, getting outside, like to be active, do family things together.
We try to spend a lot of time together as a family and do a lot of family, activities together.
But then coronavirus hit. And staying home became the new way of life.
How many you got?
Which exposed some things.
I think, like a lot of families, we found ourselves probably too busy. And I think we realized some of the things, we don't have to do some of these things. Some of the things, it was forced, taken away.
That's unfortunate.
And so it was like, you know what, this is better without all of these things.
It did expose people's tolerance. The tolerance is being around each other for such a long period of time. I have a college-age daughter, so she's going away to school, and the preparation for that, I think it created a lot of anxiety.
And speaking of anxiety, when I say remote learning, what's the first word that comes to your mind?
I would agree with challenging. My daughter was stressed about it more than I thought she would be. But we just had to break it down. I'm like, listen, it's not a big deal. Go to your Google Classroom. Okay. Let's just look at what we have to do. Did she give you a side, or do you use your own opinion? Let's get organized. So what is your opinion? Stay calm.
Like they create a lot of trash.
It's all gonna be fine. And she really did buy into that and follow my lead.
Okay. Yeah.
You're getting a chance to see which ways your child learns best, and even the little nuances, if they're not paying attention, if it's a subject they're having issue with, and how they engage in class.
I have to tell you, listening to both of you, I feel like I'm at a Parents Anonymous meeting because I can relate to so much that you're saying. How have you been maintaining your sanity?
Can I say it on camera? A glass of wine. A glass of wine, man. And just know that it's temporary. I think that's the saving grace in the back of a lot of people's mind to keep sanity.
Come on, Moo-Moo. I think just getting outside helps me a lot, taking a walk. Okay.
Hillary is here to...
I like to watch just a mindless show, nothing that has big drama or anything to do with current, politics or anything like that.
And their big takeaway for 2020?
The way we impact each other. We're not just individual cars moving down the road at this point. Is for your safety, I need you to wear a mask. For my safety, I need to wear a mask for you.
For me, it's just a really good reminder that we have the power to choose how we look at things. It's okay to be mad, sad, frustrated, whatever it is, but come back and let's find some positive things. Let's see how we're gonna react to it and make this work.
Danita Harris, News 5.
So the learning curve was steep for thousands of Northeast Ohio families whose students' school years were in flux in 2020. Some went home, back to school, and then home again.
News 5's Caroline Sweeney shows us how during this uncomfortable year of change, one family turned to each other for comfort.
We miss them so much.
Seeing students outside with masks on isn't exactly how teachers pictured the start of the school year.
The biggest concern I have is that the students who needed school as a place where they were able to get away from certain responsibilities at home or take a break or actually be children, they don't have that experience sometimes.
They wanted students inside classrooms, but the pandemic meant these seats were empty during the fall.
I don't have children, but I think of all of my students as my children, and I care about them like that, and their parents understand that.
Students in the breakthrough school system, like Millie and Xavier Nixon, didn't have a choice.
This is way stressful.
The charter schools put remote learning in place before the year started, which meant the first day and all the days that followed
What will online learning look like?
looked different.
It was stressful for a little bit.
But as Millie and Xavier were learning in virtual classrooms,
We're choosing one of the lines from the Create and we're filling it in.
their parents were learning a new routine too.
But we got up every morning, we made sure that they ate breakfast, and we kept to a schedule, even though we were doing a lot of just online computer-based stuff.
If I'm correct, your Schoologies were not working.
It's a routine, definitely a routine, because at first I didn't know what to expect, but now I have a schedule, I have classes, I know where I have to be, what I have to do. It's a routine now. It feels like this is the regular.
On the other side of the screen
Do you guys have any questions about, what's coming next, what you can expect this week?
are the teachers who use Zoom links instead of school bells to signal a class change.
We have shifted our focus academically of just making sure that we're getting the foundational building blocks first before we move on to the more traditional things that we would be doing.
With all the Nixons at home, Catherine and Andrew,
it's good,
and Millie and Xavier,
All right, 1 second.
learning happened off screen too.
Every family has a different dynamic, a different situation, a different way that we deal with things. But really to stay positive for the kids and be optimistic and to celebrate those little wins.
Caroline Sweeney, News 5.
And the year that everything changed will be over now in just hours.
And while 2020 knocked us down in many ways, we've seen families, neighbors, and communities come together to pick each other back up.
They've shown us that as we ring in this new year, there is hope on the horizon, giving us all at least a shot at life returning to normal.
It's been a long 10 months.
We're in for the long haul. We've been playing defense for the last 10 months.
I'm glad it's finally here.
So this is a hugely offensive move.
Feeling great. It's a monumental moment in medicine.
It's just very exciting.
I'm just very thankful. I'm super excited.
Just waiting for this day.
It's been a long time coming.
Get vaccinated.
It means everything.
Save lives. That felt better than my flu shot.
It's like a relief. It's like a weight is lifted. It's a really good day. And I highly recommend it.
It truly is like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Make it better.
Feels great.
It's finally here.
We know it's for our protection. You feel a little bit of a weight lifted off.
I think it's a fitting end to 2020.
And go back to their normal happy life.
Quiet and dry as we end 2020. Good riddance, everybody, right? Am I right? We've got upper 20s and lower 30s right now on the thermometers all around the region. If you've got a dinner reservation this evening, just dress warmly. You'll need to. Now, we're going to try and get you a little bit of clearing here. We've had a lot of clouds all day long, but we should be able to clear the skies at least a little bit just before midnight and just after. Then the winter weather advisory kicks in for tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. through 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. But you're dry during the evening hours, as we see here on the Power of 5. It is dry. Okay, so your evening. 29 at 10 p.m. as the restaurants close and you're headed home, and at midnight we welcome in 2021. Middle and upper 20s with a little bit of clearing here and there. Winter weather advisory again through 1 p.m. tomorrow. And look, all the way down here from Texas to Maine, we've got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for this one main weather system. There it is. And we're going to be on the chilly side of this front for a little while tomorrow morning. That's why we could see a quick inch of snow during the morning hours or a tiny accumulation of ice due to some freezing rain. By late morning, early afternoon, temps should warm up enough to make it all rain. Here's your 12 a.m. temps. You're in the middle and upper 20s generally. And then tomorrow we see, here's the ice. Here's the snow sliding in. Temps need to get above freezing by 2 p.m. Most of us are there. could see some heavy rain tomorrow afternoon and evening, which could lead to some minor flooding issues tomorrow late afternoon through tomorrow night. So at 10 p.m. you're at 30, at 2 a.m. you're at 30 in Columbia Station. Chardon, 28 and 28. Hudson, 29 all the way through 2 a.m. It's going to be cold. We'll start our day at 30. We'll watch for that wintry mix as we head through the day. And let's see, 40 degrees, morning ice and snow, p.m. rain. Rob?
All right, I'll take it from here. Mark, thanks so much. Coming up next at 6, why thousands of Northeast Ohioans who thought they were in line to get a COVID-19 vaccine are about to have their appointments canceled.
I think it's a connection that a lot of us need and have probably told ourselves in the past that we didn't need because it didn't exist.
The new push to bring back a piece of Cleveland's history to ride into the future.
And changing the way we look at resolutions as we leave a year full of change and head into the new one. When News 5 at 6 begins in 2 minutes.